Hi there, my name's Yasmin. I'm the lead therapist and owner at Sydney Cognitive Hypnotherapy Clinic, and I'm here today to give you some tips to beat stress and anxiety. I'm here in the clinic in beautiful Sydney CBD, which is just a few hundred metres from Oxford Street, and being only a few days now until Mardi Gras, the LGBT community is a hot topic of conversation. A common factor that I see between LGBT and non-LGBT community clients is I hear about their endless struggle with stress and anxiety and the various forms in which it takes in our lives and the various ways in which it penetrates into aspects of our lives as well. Now, these aren't quick fixes. They're not sort of in the moment things to get you through, although they will help. These are long-term cognitive skills and strategies which will help to eliminate stress and anxiety from your life. So, tip number 1, take back control of your own mind. Now, this is a lot of people's ambition and goal, and a lot of people strive towards being totally in control of their own mind. But actually getting there and actually feeling in control, that's a different story. It really is in the details of how you do what you do. So for instance, with stress and anxiety, how do you think about things when you're in that sort of state? Thinking about negative thoughts is not going to be helpful, but a lot of us just go with it. A lot of us just do it anyway because we're just caught up in that space. So taking steps towards taking charge of your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own actions, and your own internal experience really is what is crucial in eliminating stress and anxiety from every aspect of your life. Everyone has done this at some point in their lives. There's many instances, I'm sure, even in your own life, where you have ignored a thought or ignored a feeling at some point. That's exactly the same sort of strategy. But we just need to move it over to the problem area, which in this case is stress and anxiety. It helps in a lot of other areas as well though, but that would be my number 1 tip. So, tip number 2, learn to embrace life's ambiguities. A lot of us relish in them, a lot of us hate them. The reality is, life is full of ambiguities and it always will be. I'm sorry, that's not going to change. Anything from walking down the street to going to work, you don't know what's going to happen in your life. But we can do what we can, make good actions, good decisions, and focus on the right things in order to achieve what we want. And focusing on ambiguities itself is not the problem. It's how we look at it, it's how we focus on it. So for instance, a surprise present. If you know that you have a surprise present, then you can be filled with all sorts of different feelings about that. Whereas having someone jump out at you and surprise you is a different story. Learning to embrace ambiguities, do what we can about it, cover off boxes, do actions that we can in order to secure our future is all we can do. And then we just have to learn to love the ambiguities and the unsure spaces. It's just a part of life. Tip number 3, get out of your own head and change your focus. So, in terms of stress and anxiety, a lot of the time, anyone who's stressed, anyone who's anxious about something, they're really in their own head. They're thinking about something or ruminating over something endlessly. and they're not really so much in the real world out here. They're not really engaging with things, they're not 100% present because they're thinking about something in the future generally, or just thinking in their own head. So engaging in activities, engaging with people, and being physical tasks, exercise, anything that gets you focusing on something outside of your own head is a great start. It's very hard to ruminate and stress about something if you're engaged in a physical activity, because your brain can only process so many things at once and it can only focus on so many things at once. So if your brain has to focus on you running, animals are a really good one for this actually, because we have to focus on every interaction we have with them in order to, which forces us to be present, and that is a really good anxiety killer. There's so many studies out now that show having a dog, having a cat, having pets, interacting with them is a massive anxiety killer and also really helps with depression. So realigning your focus as to what you're focusing on is a great skill to have and really helps to completely eliminate anxiety in the moment, and if you continue to do it, make it a habit, you'll continue to be anxiety free for a very long time. Tip number 4, create boundaries and schedules. Creating strong boundaries with the people around us is very important for all kinds of relationships. But what a lot of people don't realise is that creating strong boundaries for ourselves is also really important. And not only for ourselves, but for our minds. It's a strange concept to think of ourself and our mind as two separate entities, but sometimes it can really feel like that. And sometimes it helps to treat it as such. Taking control of your mind and giving it boundaries and structures. So for instance, if you're stressed about something, if you're feeling anxious about something, but there's things you need to do in the day. So go to work, you have chores to do, there's certain things you have to do, and sometimes stress and anxiety can get in the way of that. So a really good tip and helpful skill to learn is to give yourself boundaries of where you can stress. So you can give yourself the permission to stress and fret about whatever you want, but only at a certain block in the day for a certain amount of time. Or you can create a boundary of at a certain time or at a certain place, I don't think about XYZ. I don't think about work, I don't think about whatever it is that's stressing you. And that also helps for you to feel in control of yourself and in control of your thoughts and mind, so that eventually that little block of not stressing can eventually spread and go throughout your life, so that eventually you don't realise, but you've gone days and weeks without stressing about anything. That's a really great skill to have. And scheduling as well. Setting up schedules for your day, whether it's work or your personal life, social life, whatever it is. If you create a schedule for it and you put it on paper in real terms and you stick to that, that helps to eliminate a lot of the ambiguity that's around your future, around whether you'll accomplish something. And that really helps to completely eliminate anxiety, because you're doing everything you can about it. You can't stress about whether you're going to do it or when you're going to do it, because it's there in black and white on paper. You're going to do it at this time at this place. That really helps as well. Tip number 5, get external feedback and input from qualified sources. Now, the distinction here is qualified sources. Getting input and opinions and references from other people is a really great start to blocking and shutting down those negative thoughts that generally are associated with stress and anxiety. Because if you're worried that someone's going to think something, someone's going to say something negative or in a certain way, if you ask them, then you can't stress about it anymore, because that ambiguity is gone and it's been clarified. They either are or they aren't. And the worst thing that can happen is probably not anywhere near what you think it's going to be in your mind. But qualified sources, meaning that if you aren't sure about something, if you are doubting yourself or you have a skill that you're lacking and you're unsure in the area, then you need to make sure that the people that you're asking input from are qualified in whatever area that is. So whether it is a social situation, whether it's professional, a personal problem, whatever it is. For instance, I wouldn't suggest going and asking advice or help from someone that has been single their whole life and has not been in a committed relationship about marriage advice or about relationship advice. If you see that they struggle in relationships a lot of the time, then they're probably not going to have the best skills for you in order for you to learn from and accept their opinion as a valid resource for you. Whereas some people are genuinely helpful and very resourceful, and some people have some great insights in regards to many different cognitive skills in life. If you think that their input seems logical and seems reasonable and realistic, then they're probably a qualified source of information. But always check first as to whether you think the information that he's giving you makes sense, makes logical sense, and whether it's realistic, and then choose whether to accept it as a valid source of information or whether to put it to the side as not so useful for you right now. So, tip number 6, focus on little steps and tangible details. Focusing on little steps in regards to stress and anxiety is very helpful, because a lot of us, when we're stressed or when we're anxious about something, we really globalize the problem and globalize our negativities. So instead of thinking that this one decision I made is going to affect the one thing that it's attached to, or it's going to affect that particular area, if I'm anxious and I'm stressed about that decision, I'm going to think that that one decision is going to affect every single aspect of my life, generally in the negative as well. So focusing on the tangible details, meaning the realistic reality details, that really helps to turn around the way that you're thinking about the problem, the way that you are cognitively processing this thing that you're stressed or anxious about. So instead of thinking that this one little aspect is going to affect the rest of my life for the rest of time, how about thinking in realistic terms of, yes, I made this decision, or yes, this thing happened, whatever. But realistically, where does that leave me right now? Is there anything I can do about it right now so that I can improve on the situation and so that I can make sure it doesn't happen again, or whatever the case may be? Ensuring that you're focusing on the details and focusing on the reality of the situation instead of relating it to past experiences or negative associations, that really helps to pull back the reins again so that you can control your mind and aim in a different area, refocus your attention, and it also helps to reduce the ambiguity around the situation as well, because you've thought realistically about what you can do, and if there is anything you can do, you've taken actions, and then there's not much ambiguity left. There's not much else you can do, so what is the point in worrying about it? Last tip, tip number 7. Be realistic. Learn appropriate cognitive processes to analyze and react to situations and events. This one's a biggie. Learning the right cognitive process for the right situation and the right event, and knowing how best to react to that, is a very detailed, complex process. This is something that really should be taught to us at a young age, but a lot of us miss out on that for various reasons. But the good news is that we can learn this as adults. We can learn this at any stage of our life. Cognitive skills and processes are tangible, and we're in control of how we do things. So all it takes is to learn which skill to apply in which place, and then put it to action. At the end of the day, if you know the right cognitive process to use in every situation and in every circumstance, not only your actual physical and verbal actions in regards to people around you, but your cognitive processes in your own mind, the way you react to yourself, the way you react to others, the internal experience you are giving yourself. That is a key fundamental skill in having a successful, happy, amazing life. Because if you can control this, then everything else that happens around you is just noise. Now, there's a lot there. There's only 7 tips there, but there's a lot involved in all of them. I can guarantee you though, if you get those key skills and you get those tips, then having anxiety and having stress about things will be a thing of the past for you. If you're struggling to implement these 7 tips, if you're struggling with that, or it makes sense to you but you don't know how to do them, then I would highly recommend seeking out a qualified hypnotherapist that also has cognitive and strategic skills in their toolkit, because the hypnotherapy aspect allows the person to really tap into that subconscious part of you that's just not quite there. You acknowledge the fact that these things make sense. Yes, that's a great idea, I should do it. But it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't get implemented. That's where hypnosis really helps, because it helps the therapist to access that part of you that is holding you back. Hypnotherapy helps to give your subconscious that little push that it needs so that you can take control again and you can achieve what you want to and what you need to. The cognitive and strategic aspects that I encourage you to find in a therapist is that they will have the skills to be able to teach you so that you can continue your progression, you can continue your achievement, instead of just walking out of the door having a nice conversation with someone. That is great, and sometimes that is all we need. But a lot of the time, the reasons people struggle is because they don't have a certain skill, or they've not realised that they have a certain skill and they're not using it in the right area and in the right way. The cognitive and strategic therapy models that some therapists have, in combination with the hypnotherapy, gives an excellent edge and really holistic, rounded therapeutic approach to make anything happen. Well, that's all from me for today. I hope that these 7 tips have been helpful for you in realising something new, having a new perspective, whatever it is. I think that every person deserves the right to learn how to control their own mind so that they can live a happy, successful life. And here in Sydney, to celebrate Mardi Gras coming up, all of the month of March, Sydney Cognitive Hypnotherapy Clinic, we're offering special deals. So if you jump on our website, get in touch with us, see what we can offer you, what we can do for you, and what kind of deals we can offer you as well. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon.